Yeah, boy.
We do not forgive. We do not forget.
What's up guys, Deceiver here, and we're back with another Wolcen build video. And today we have probably the strongest build that I've made yet. I've only made like a couple builds, but this one is definitely the strongest as it has carried me to the highest levels that I've gotten to so far. I'm not up there in the, 180s and 200s and everything, but I have gotten decently far in endgame now. So this is my Shinobi video, and before I give away anything else, I want to show the Gate of Fates tree. So go ahead and take a screenshot if you guys need to, or pause the video and check it out. This is where you're going to want to do that. I'll go over some of the nodes, but I don't want to spend too much time in the Gate of Fates. I'm just going to go over the big nodes and what you'll need. Now, defensively, this build is focused on dodge chance. I've talked about dodge in my previous videos, but I've recently gotten it to a very, very strong point with my gear. Now, I will preface this video by saying that this build is somewhat gear dependent, so it might not be the best build for beginners. You could build it a different way and still make it work in the earlier levels, but it is more of an endgame build for the simple fact that there are some stats that you're going to need on your gear, and I'll show the gear later on in the video. This is also probably going to be a decently long video, so I'll put the timestamps in the description, hopefully, if I remember to do so. If not, someone else hopefully can do it for me. That'd be great. So yeah, we'll go ahead and go into the build. So defensively, we're looking at getting the Sentinel. Covert Operative is a big part of our defense in conjunction with some other defensive trees. So that's the first one. You're also going to want Dire Juncture. Dire Juncture is definitely important. It keeps you, basically you only take 40% damage from an attack that does hit you. Now our dodge chance is almost 80% on this build. Yes, 80%. It is very huge. So we do want to make sure that when we do take damage that we're not taking a huge amount. So dodge chance, and then we have dire juncture for when we do get hit, and then we have branded burst as well for when we do get hit. So we're basically getting a 60% damage reduction when we do take a hit, and because we are using Siegebreaker, we are taking when we do take a hit, basically we regen all of our health and force shield. So this ability for rogue armor basically says you regenerate health and force shield equivalent to 2 times the health given by your equipment each time you complete a passive dodge. Not just your health and force shield put together. So 2 times what your health and force field are on your helmet and your chest. So those are going to be very important pieces because that's how you're going to get a lot of your regen. So basically, majority of the time you're going to be dodging every attack. When you don't dodge an attack, you're going to reduce 60% damage. You're going to dodge 100% dodge, and then as soon as that 100% dodge goes off, you're going to start regenning all of your health and force shield back. Very strong combination of defensive skills. This is my favorite way to be defensive in this game. I don't die that often. Now, offensively, we are an ailment build. However, now that they fixed the primordial instincts, we do want to have a little bit of crit in our build as well, which is why I took the soldier, the wild card. You also want to have attrition strategist. You want to have assassins, the assassin tree, blessing of the Jade Legion. Eventually, I'm going to take this God Amongst Men node. I haven't taken it just yet, but it doesn't really matter right now because all of my damage comes from toxic and rend damage anyway. But that 50% damage is going to make a difference, obviously. So this build can be much stronger than it is, and it's already pretty strong, as you guys saw in the opener. So we also take pretty much a big chunk of the Kabbalist tree. We want to be multiplying our ailment stacks. We want to be getting that extra damage. Immortal Offering is great. Grievous Affliction lets us apply poison and rend damage at the same time. And then, of course, this lets us crit, and this gives us our extra affliction stacks. And then we also have which time cannot heal. So what you usually get in this build is you'll get big damage ticks off of your crits that are damage over time, and then it's going to double them. You do have a guaranteed way to get stasis as well, so you're going to be applying stasis majority of the time. Also, we take the Child of Fury, Furious Appetite. That way we generate rage instead of willpower. I did not take this node because mostly I don't have enough skill points. I needed to get the important nodes first. But I might go into that a little bit later once I can actually get the Twisted Obligation and Duty to Exterminate nodes for the maximum willpower and rage. But for now, I don't want to grab that. Plus, I usually do enough damage anyway. I also picked up some of the extra dodge chance passives. For earlier levels, that's not completely necessary, but I would grab them as soon as you can. Anything that's over 15 or 25%, you can go ahead and grab it, as I also grabbed a couple on my way to the Branded Burst node as well. But majority of the dodge is coming from your gear. Early on, you can get more dodge in the tree if you really want to. So, after that, we're going to go into the skills. Actually, you know what? I'll show the attributes first because it's a little bit quicker. So we'll do attributes. I've got majority into wisdom and some into toughness. Right now I'm sitting at 4,100 health, or 41,000 health rather, and 8,000 force shield. Your stats that you want to have your wisdom sitting at about 51, between 40 and 50% chance to apply. I found that is probably the sweet spot, so now I'm pretty much just dumping all my points into toughness now that I've got that chance. My crit chance is only at 18%, but I do seem to crit a little bit more often than you would think, so that's pretty good. As you can see, my dodge chance unbuffed is 76% when I hit the R key, it goes up to 79.2%, and this can go much higher still. I could probably get my dodge chance up to like 90% with optimal gear. I'm still working on the gear for this build, and just so you guys know, this is probably gonna be my main build. Once I get all the gear for it and hit level 90, I'm gonna optimize this to the best of my ability, so you will see an update video for this build eventually. I am going to be working on another build after I make this video though, but I will be looking for gear to optimize this build while I'm playing the other builds that I'm going to be making. So because we don't take damage very often and we regen it, we use double rage potions. This is how we keep our rage up. Now you do need Phantom Blades. Phantom Blades is a very important skill for this build. I'll show you why once we get to the modifiers. Sovereign Shout is kind of our flex spot. You can use Sovereign Shout, or you could use double flayed Phantom Blades if you have that unlocked. As you can see, I was using the duplicated version at one point, and this actually works pretty well because it lets you deal a decent amount of damage without having to use a whole lot of your rage. So this is something that you can switch out, or you could just put something else there. Like I said, Sovereign Shout is kind of the flex spot. Mark of Impurity is a must. That's how we do a lot of our AoE damage, and it's very, very good against bosses as well. Dust Shroud, another very useful skill. If you really don't want to use it, you can use something else, but I don't recommend it, as it does give you a lot of buffs and it removes a lot of issues that you have as well. Now, Tracker's Reach is our guaranteed way of getting stasis. I will show you that in the modifiers as well. And this is also useful for clumping all of the mobs together. So you're going to want to have Tracker's Reach in order to make this build work. It's pretty much integral. I'd say the only flex spot really is Sovereign Shout. But your Rage Spender you could also technically flex out. Now, I'm using Rage of Baphomet or whatever. This skill does a decent amount of damage. I did try using what was it called, that fucking skill, Slayer's Fury. I tried using Slayer's Fury, and it just didn't seem as effective, and I still wanted to keep it on theme. So the fact that I'm using like chain swords kinda is on theme with a Shinobi, so it still stays on theme. It does way more AoE damage, it does way more damage in general, and for some reason, I don't know why, it tends to crit more often. Now, Slayer's Fury would apply ailment stacks quicker, but I don't seem to have a problem with that. I tested both of them, and honestly, the difference between the two is kind of minuscule. You could use either one and do fine, but I prefer to do Wrath because it has more range for one, which is good against boss, and it seems to have more AoE damage area. So this is what I recommend using. Again, you could use Slayer's Fury if you want to. So let's go over the modifiers now. So the modifiers for Phantom Blades are very important. The most important one is going to be Looming Fog of Battle. Transmit ailment stacks from one target to the next. So basically, the target in front of you, you can apply all your ailments to, and then throw a shuriken, and it's going to apply all the ailments that are on the targets in front of you to the targets that are in the back as well. It's a really, really good modifier for an ailment build. And then Gliding Friction leaves a trail for a few seconds that deals damage. I'm not 100% sure if this applies ailments, this damage trail or whatever, but it does seem to. Either way, it's another damage over time, really good. You're going to want the additional charge to get 3 charges. You're going to want to increase the area of effect, and you're going to want to reduce the reload time for charges. So that's pretty standard there. Then Sovereign Shout, what I'm using here, you don't have to use this one, you could use something different. Increase the chance for health globes spawning while this skill is active. I've noticed in big mobs, it spawns an absolute shit ton of health globes all over the place. Like, it's actually ridiculous. So when you could stand in a mob of like 300 monsters and there would just be so many health globes that you would never die. It's actually crazy. In combination with your dodge chance. So yeah, it's really good. Increase the duration of buffs granted by the ability. Grants temporary crit buff, which is really good. It brings our crit on. I'll test it after the. Actually, I'll just test it now. Come on. So it brings our crit chance up to 20%, which isn't too bad. It's not the greatest, obviously. Then increase the effectiveness of all buffs by this skill and other skills. Grant temporary life leech. Actually, I probably might change that one because I've got life leech somewhere else anyway. And then grants a movement speed buff, which is really fun. Okay, Mark of Impurity. So marked enemies are inflicted with numerous stacks of curse. So this is a way of getting 10 curse stacks automatically on a target. And then enemies killed explode for a damage based on the target's max health. That was really hard for me to read for some reason. And then Mark of Impurity spreads to surrounding enemies on the death of the target. This one is the most important, I'd say. This one's probably important too because it's a lot of AoE damage. And then I just grabbed increases ailment damage on marked enemies. So marked enemies also take increased ailment damage on top of them being vulnerable already. So that's really good. And then we're using Dust Shroud. So Shadow Cloud increases dodge chance. It's only by like 3 or 4%, but it's still something. Basically, this is your other way of inflicting curse. So Dust Shroud adds another curse stack. Dropping Shadow Cloud clears ailments. I'd say ailments are the main way that you will die with this build. Standing in a puddle of something that ticks really fast, like poison or the bleed on the ground, or especially electricity. Electricity seems to be the thing that I die most to when I do die. So clearing ailments is good. Increase the invisibility duration. Break any crowd control effects, so anytime you get stunned you can actually drop this and it'll break you out. That's good against bosses. Increases movement speed. This is pretty much your only mobility tool other than Sovereign Shout. So that's how I get around the map. We don't have a teleport, unfortunately, being completely 100% double dagger. Then we got reduce the rage cost. That's not really necessary. You could get something else if you wanted to. And reduces the cooldown. The cooldown gets decreased as you level this up already, but you want this cooldown as low as possible. I'd love to get it down to like 3 seconds or 2 seconds, but generally it recharges by the time that you need to use it again, by the time you come out of invisibility anyway. So, Tracker's Reach. The only one you absolutely need is inflict stasis on enemies. Actually, I lied. There's this one as well. You need pulls enemies from all directions. So it pulls them all in at the same time. You definitely need that. Increases the range, reduce the cooldown, increases weapon damage. You want weapon damage on this because base, it does not deal any damage whatsoever. So you want at least one of the weapon damage nodes to apply poison stacks to the target. So you definitely have to grab at least one of the damage ones. Reduce the cooldown again and increase the range a little bit more. You can kind of mix and match these. You have to have stasis, you have to have pulls enemy in all directions, and you have to have some kind of one of the weapon damage ones at least. And then we've got our rage spending skill that deals a lot of our damage. Rage generated when killing an enemy. Increase attack speed, reduce the rage cost, increase the area of effect, increase the chance to inflict ailments, so it's 54% on this ability here. Gain leech life on this. The lower health you are, the more life leech you gain. So we've already got life leech here. We've got it on Sovereign Shout as well, so we have multiple ways of regenerating health. And then increase ailment damage. So yeah, that's pretty much it. You can change some of the skills. I don't think on Wrath there is a mandatory ability. I'd say these top 3 are really good, or maybe these top 2, and the increase area of effect. The rest you can kind of mix and match whatever works best for you. I think we're going to move on to the gear now. So none of the gear that I'm currently wearing is completely mandatory, but so for the helmet, I've got, as you can see, my armor gems are all dodge chance. You want 35% dodge chance, which I don't have. I don't think I have any more dodge chance that are 35%. I'll have to look later. But you want as high dodge chance gems as you can get. And you want to roll as many defensive 3 sockets on your gear as you can. So as you can see here, dodge chance, you want material damage, you want ailment chance score, you want willpower and rage cost reduction, cooldown reduction. Those are the stats that you're looking for. Agility actually doesn't hurt this build at all, and because I'm using full rogue gear, get an agility on pretty much all of it. So agility doesn't hurt. You want to have health and force shield. You could potentially take bruise your gear on some of it, but you have to have rogue gear on your chest and helmet for this to work. What are some other useful stats you can use? Just flat damage is good. Yeah. So on the belt, I've got rend damage. You don't really need shadow damage on there. You want crit chance on as much of this as you can get as well. I plan on increasing the crit chance as well to make this build hit harder. This is a unique ring that you can use. What it does is negates some of your non-ailment damage and gives you the same amount of ailment damage back. It also increases your ailment chance score by 50%, and you have a 20% chance to spread ailments to enemies around the target hit. This is a very useful ring. I wish I had a higher level one that had better stats on it, but it is what it is. I might end up replacing it at some point for something else if I find that it does more damage. On your necklace, you want to ideally have, I think there's a crit chance necklace or something like that, but I've got 12 plus 12 to all attributes. I got rend damage, material damage, and material chance score. Also socketed with toxic damage. You could socket this with rage to willpower reduction transfer time. That's what I originally had, but I've only got one of those right now, and it's in my ring. You want to have an emerald ring that gives you plus 30% passive dodge chance score, or at least it doesn't have to be 30% because that's kind of like the perfect roll, or at least the highest I've seen. But you want to have an emerald ring. That's probably the most important. And then I've got some crit damage and material ailment chance score. Plus rage generation on hit is pretty nice as well. I have not found a better ring yet. I'm sure I will at some point. And then on the pants, material damage, dodge chance, and cooldown reduction. On the boots, material damage, dodge chance, and a bunch of like health regen, health on the item, and some attack speed, of course. These aren't the best boots, could be better. And then on my one-handed dagger, I've got all toxic damage on my first hand. It's got 202 material chance score, some toxic damage, 5% life leech from weapon damage, and 42% material damage. This is really good. Once I can find something to use in the meantime, I'm going to upgrade this to legendary because this is a really good dagger. My second dagger is actually really good as well. It's got critical chance score, critical damage, rend damage, and toxic damage. Very good rolls. I do need to get a triple offensive 1 in this one like I've got in my main hand, but for now this is fine. So I'm also going to upgrade this one to legendary probably as well. Both of these daggers are just really good. The rolls on them, I couldn't ask too much better. So yeah, I think that's it for the gear, and honestly I think that's it for the build. I don't think I'm missing anything that I need to talk about other than like the playstyle. So ideally what you want to do, you want to pull in everybody, you want to drop a mark of impurity on the weakest enemy, and then you want to phantom blades to apply stasis to anybody that you missed, and then you want to start spamming wrath, use sovereign shout whenever you need to, and drop dust shroud when you've got them all clumped up or whenever you need to. And from there you should just be applying all your ailment stats, and there's a lot of times where I can just stand there and watch them die. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. If you guys are curious, I've made it to 121 so far, and I'll probably push for the next ranks here soon. I've just kind of been being lazy, to be honest. I haven't been able to play as much because my daughter's been here a little bit more. So I'm going to drop a poll in the community chat area to see what you guys want to see next as far as builds go. I already did one last night, but I did it really late, so I'm going to drop another one. I've got a lot of build ideas still, a lot that I'm still going to be using. I'm actually leveling up 3 other characters, even though I haven't even got this one to max level yet because it takes so fucking long. But if you guys are curious, also I'm using the rend damage aspect of Apocalypse. I don't really use it that much because it doesn't do shit for damage. But I do use it sometimes when I'm about to die from a boss or something sometimes. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the build. And like I said, this is probably the most fun and most effective build that I've made to date. I finally made an assassin. It took me a long time. I wanted to do it ever since I got this game, to make an assassin. And it took so long to get all the things right, especially the Gate of Fates. I had to get all that right. I had to get all the gear right. It was just a pain in the ass, but it was definitely worth it. It's a really fun build and a really effective build. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.